When the objects are understood to be essenceless and there is no taste for pleasure, desire does not arise. And that is liberation. It sounds a bit bland, doesn't it? And often the descriptions in Buddhism and in Hinduism, the descriptions of the absolute state don't sound very appealing. They sound almost nihilistic, but that's only from the conditioned point of view. What the spiritual practitioner is doing is giving up some very limited ideas for everything. There's nothing nihilistic about that. When the enlightened person goes beyond the notions of unity and duality, he treats desire and non-desire as equal and divine, because everything is divine. He is free from agitation and rests in the Lord in peace. He is not interested in doing anything, nor is there anything for him to gain by refraining from doing something. Nothing matters anymore, desire or non-desire, truth or falsehood, self or another, life or death. In such a person no desire arises, and if a desire does arise, it is Brahman. So this is awful to the Western mentality. This is complete anathema. Because we want to be driven, we want to achieve, we want to understand. But this isn't excluding any of that. It's just excluding the blind nature of it. It's not getting seduced by promises, by hopes, because there's no need. Ultimate fulfillment has been achieved. He to whom there is neither joy nor sorrow, who rests in peace and who is inwardly unagitated, he is enlightened. Unagitated, who can argue with being unagitated? But that doesn't mean to say you become a quiescent corpse. What it means is you can actually act wholeheartedly. You can act without reserve. This is what being unagitated means. He's able to transform even sorrow into joy. There is no reason to be afflicted by sorrow. You can throw as many reasons as you like why we should be miserable, angry or sorrowful, but such behaviour comes from not appreciating the essential reality of our situation. When one is firmly established in the realization of the truth, then space rests in space, peace in peace, auspiciousness in auspiciousness, void in void, the world in Brahman. The false egosense vanishes, and everything then is truly as it is. Not how we think it is, not how we hope it will be, but it is as it is. If the world appears to be, it is surely like the city which appears in the imagination of someone else. It is an illusory appearance. Its reality is illusory. It's still got an appearance, but when we start thinking about it, or when we start believing stories about it, or what we've been told about it, then we're getting caught up in the illusion. The ego sense is unreal, though it appears to be real. The ego sense is also part of the world. We tend to think of the me here and the world out there, and there's me here with stuff going on inside me, and there's a world out there. But when you come back to your own awareness, then the me here is no different from what's going on out there. It's of the same illusory nature. This world appearance is neither real nor unreal. So we're not going to get caught up in notions of reality here, or unreal reality. It is indescribable. This seems to be what happens when you try to pin something down. The physicists assume that you understand reality by breaking it up and looking at smaller and smaller bits of it. And the idea is that when you break something down, the bits get simpler. But this doesn't seem to be happening. The atom seems to be incredibly complicated. In fact, it's so complicated that it seems to be beyond our comprehension. So this assumption that you can understand things by dismantling them. It's okay for mechanical toys, and I think that's probably where this assumption comes from. There was a time, which is long since gone, that if you wanted to understand how things work, you took them apart. Generations of boys grew up with this belief. To find out how things worked, you took it apart. But what are kids supposed to do now? They've got a mobile phone or a handheld video game. If you took it apart, are you going to get any clue as to how it works? So this idea that by breaking things up and analysing their component parts, and then you can find out how they work, it's only true in a very limited sense. And the more you kind of look into it, the more you kind of look into physical reality, the more indescribable it becomes. Just try reading a physics book. Hence, though it is true that the knower of truth is not affected by desire or by non-desire, I think it is preferable that even in his case the desire does not arise. It becomes irrelevant. We don't need to be talking about desire and non-desire. Talking about desire is only useful as a way of understanding what's detracting us from realization of the essence of our present situation. For the mind is movement in consciousness as it becomes aware of itself. That itself is samsara and also desire. When it's not becoming aware of itself directly, it's becoming aware of itself through its notions and through relating to the notions that arise within it. This is samsara. To be free from it is liberation. So to be free from this tendency to identify with notions is liberation. I call it the cognitive process. Cognitive process is how we conceptually understand things. Once we step aside from the cognitive process, we're free. Knowing it thus, let desire be abandoned. And knowing that everything is just a result of our own cognitive process, which determines that some notions are desirable and some undesirable, once we're free from that, then we're liberated. In truth, however, whether there is desire or no desire, whether there is creation or cosmic dissolution, there is no loss of anything to anyone here. So the nihilistic viewpoint has got no foothold. These teachings often sound nihilistic, but what you're giving up is limitation. You're giving up enslavement to limited notions. You're giving up enslavement to limiting notions. Desire and non-desire, truth and falsehood, existence and non-existence, happiness and sorrow, all these are but notions which arise in space, but which do not give rise to anything. They don't give rise to anything real. They give rise to further notions and further entrenchment in notions. But once we realize their notional nature, they have no essence. They have no reality, and we can abandon them. We can let go of them. But he is regarded as a candidate for liberation, in whom desire is weakened day after day. No other remedy in the world can remove the dreadful pain caused in the heart by desire. And very often you cannot tackle desire directly. You have to do it by realizing the notional nature of what you desire. Not only that, you have to realize the true nature of your own being, your own essence, your own awareness, the true nature of your own attention.